What if the family secret you thought was buried came back for revenge? Years after the beloved Nanny's mysterious disappearance, her daughter enters the family's world, one romance at a time, and with a plan that's been years in the making. The Whitmore family was used to attention. Their estate was the largest in the county, their parties the most lavish, and their scandals the juiciest. But nothing had ever shaken them quite like the disappearance of Maria, the beloved nanny, nearly 20 years ago. One day she was there, singing lullabies, baking cookies, wiping away tears, and the next, she was gone. The official story was that she'd left for a better job, but the children remembered the shouting, the slammed doors, and the way their parents never spoke her name again. Now, the Whitmore siblings were grown. The eldest, Andrew, was the golden boy, set to inherit the family business. His younger brother, Will, was the rebel, always chasing trouble. Their sister, Charlotte, was the peacemaker, trying to hold the family together. When Will brought home a new girlfriend, Elena, for the summer, no one thought much of it. She was beautiful, smart, and charming, quickly winning over the family with her wit and warmth. But as the weeks passed, Elena's questions grew more pointed. She asked about old family photos, about the staff, about the nanny who used to sing Spanish lullabies. She seemed to know things she shouldn't, details about the house, the family's routines, even the secret passage behind the library. Charlotte found it odd, but Will was smitten. No one realized that Elena was there for a reason, and that her mother's disappearance was at the heart of it. Elena's presence stirred up old memories. One night, Charlotte found her in the hallway, staring at a faded portrait of Maria. "She was like a second mother to us," Charlotte said softly. Elena nodded, her eyes shining. "What happened to her?" she asked. Charlotte hesitated. "She left. My parents said she found a better job." But even as she said it, she remembered the fear in Maria's eyes, the way her mother had whispered, "Don't ask questions." Elena pressed for more, but Charlotte changed the subject. Later, Elena wandered the house alone, tracing her fingers along the banister, peeking into rooms that hadn't been opened in years. She found Maria's old room, still filled with the scent of lavender and the echoes of lullabies. She sat on the bed, clutching a faded photograph of her mother and herself as a child. "I'm here, Mama," she whispered. "I'll make them remember." Elena began to sow seeds of doubt among the Whitmores. She told Will stories about Maria's kindness, about how she'd once saved Charlotte from drowning in the pool. She hinted that Maria hadn't left by choice, that something had happened to drive her away. Will, always suspicious of his parents, started to ask questions. At dinner, Elena brought up the past. "It must have been hard, losing someone so important," she said. Andrew bristled. "We don't talk about that," he snapped. Their mother, Evelyn, changed the subject, but the tension lingered. Elena confided in Charlotte, saying she'd lost her own mother at a young age. "I just want to know what happened," she said, her voice trembling. Charlotte, moved by Elena's pain, promised to help her find answers. But Elena's true goal was more than just answers. She wanted justice. With Charlotte's help, Elena began to dig into the past. They searched the attic for old letters, questioned the housekeeper, and even visited the local police station. The official report on Maria's disappearance was thin, no evidence, no witnesses, just a note saying she'd left for another job. But Elena found inconsistencies. The timeline didn't add up. Maria's last paycheck was never cashed. Her belongings were left behind. The gardener remembered seeing Maria arguing with Evelyn the night she vanished. The housekeeper recalled hearing a scream. Elena shared her findings with Will, who confronted his parents. Evelyn denied everything, but their father, Richard, grew angry. "Let it go," he warned. "Some things are better left buried." But Elena refused to let it go. She was getting closer to the truth, and the family was starting to unravel. One stormy night, Elena cornered Evelyn in the kitchen. "You know what happened to my mother," she said, her voice cold. Evelyn's face went white. "Who are you?" she whispered. "I'm Maria's daughter," Elena replied. "And I know you lied." Evelyn broke down, confessing that Maria had discovered Richard's affair with another staff member. When Maria threatened to tell Evelyn, a fight broke out. Maria fell, hitting her head. Panicked, Evelyn and Richard covered up the accident, telling the children Maria had left. They paid off the staff and destroyed the evidence. Elena recorded the confession, her hands shaking. "You let us believe she abandoned us," Charlotte sobbed when she heard the tape. Will was furious, vowing to make their parents pay. Elena's plan moved into its final phase. She sent the recording to the police and the local newspaper. The story exploded. Whitmore family covered up Nanny's death. Reporters camped outside the estate, and the family's reputation was destroyed. Evelyn and Richard were arrested for obstruction of justice and manslaughter. The siblings were left to pick up the pieces. Andrew tried to protect the family business, but investors fled. Will and Charlotte struggled with guilt and grief, realizing they'd been living a lie. Elena watched from the sidelines, her mother's locket around her neck. She felt a sense of justice, but also sorrow. Revenge had a price, and she wondered if she'd gone too far. The Whitmore estate was sold to pay legal fees. The siblings scattered. Andrew moved to the city, Will left the country, and Charlotte started therapy. The family was broken, but for the first time, the truth was out. Elena visited Maria's grave, leaving flowers and a letter. "I did it, Mama," she whispered. "They know what happened. You can rest now." But the town was divided. Some saw Elena as a hero, others as a troublemaker. Old friends turned cold, and the Whitmore name became a cautionary tale. Time passed, and the wounds began to heal. Charlotte reached out to Elena, apologizing for her parents' actions. Will wrote from abroad, thanking Elena for forcing the truth into the light. Andrew, at first resentful, eventually admitted that the family needed to change. Elena started a foundation in Maria's name, helping families of missing persons find closure. She spoke at events, sharing her story and encouraging others to seek justice. The siblings began to rebuild their relationships, meeting for coffee and sharing memories of Maria. They realized that, despite everything, they were still family. Years later, Elena and Will were still together. They built a life based on honesty and trust, determined to break the cycle of secrets. Charlotte became a counselor, helping others heal from trauma. Andrew started a new business, focused on ethics and transparency. The family gathered every year to honor Maria's memory, planting a tree in her name. They invited the staff, the neighbors, and anyone who had loved her. The pain of the past remained, but it no longer controlled them. Elena found peace, knowing she had kept her promise to her mother. On the anniversary of Maria's death, Elena stood beneath the tree they'd planted in her honor. She looked at Will, Charlotte, and Andrew, her family, by blood and by choice. She spoke about the power of truth, the courage to seek justice, and the importance of never letting secrets fester. As the sun set, Elena felt a sense of closure. The nanny's revenge was complete, but her legacy was one of love, healing, and hope. If you believe in the power of truth and justice, share this story with someone who needs hope. What would you do if your family's darkest secret came back for revenge? Let us know in the comments below.